In the last video, we looked at different locations on Earth, and now this video we're going to talk about how scientists model or map the Earth's surface. So maps are types of models, and so a map is just a picture of a specific part of Earth's surface, and there is a ton of different maps, and each one provides different types of information. One of the first things that you should notice about a map is its legend. On this particular map, the legend tells you that the black dots are cities, and the size of the dot represents the population. So the bigger the population, the bigger the dot. The red and brown lines are major roads. Blue lines are rivers. Blue areas are lakes or other bodies of waters. And there's a scale to show you distances. So usually like 1 inch equals 1 mile would be an example of a scale. A legend is going to explain other features. And usually they're at the top, or it's usual for the top of the map to be north. However, that's not always true. So you need to always look for the compass on the map. If there is no compass, then you can make the assumption that up or the top of the map would be north. So different types of map include political and geographical maps. These outline the borders of states and countries. We could also outline like county maps or sections like within the county. There are satellite maps that show terrain and different vegetation types, such as forests and mountains and deserts. Relief maps, we kind of looked at some relief maps yesterday or the other day, and the elevation is on a large scale. So for example, the whole Earth and not just of a small local area. Topographic maps show detailed elevation features. The climate maps show different temperatures and rainfalls for different areas. Precipitation maps can show the amount of rainfall in different areas. Weather maps show storms, air masses, and fronts. You would see these often if you watch the news. Radar maps again show storms and rainfall. And then geological maps can show different types of and the locations of rocks or even soil, different soil types in the area. So map making has been around for quite a while, and so one way to make a map is using this technique called projection. Projection is a way to represent Earth's curved surface on a flat piece of paper. So it's very important to remember that the Earth is three-dimensional and it is curved, whereas a piece of paper or a map is only two-dimensional and it is flat. So when you use projection, you can do it one of two ways. The first way would be to slice a sphere in some way and unfold it to make it into a flat map. So if you think about taking an orange peel off of an orange and then trying to flatten it out. And then the other way would be to look at the sphere from a certain point of view and translate it or draw this view onto a flat piece of paper. Both of these ways are going to cause some sort of distortion. So that means going from three-dimensional to two-dimensional is going to cause the image to not be 100% perfect. There will be flaws in it. So Mercator projection showed up in about 1569, and this is a map projection created using a cylinder wrapped around the Earth. So imagine taking a globe and then taking some wrapping paper and wrapping the globe in that wrapping paper. And so the equator is your imaginary line that is running horizontal through Earth, through the middle of Earth. And so what they would do is they would shine a light from inside this globe out onto the paper. And then they would trace the features onto that piece of paper. So this is going to be the most accurate, closest to the equator. I would say not much better, within 15 degrees of the equator. The worst is going to be near the poles. Early sailors found the Mercator maps very useful because most of their exploration was located near the equator, where it had pretty good accuracy. Had they tried to explore the North Pole, then they would have run into some problems. So, like I said, Mercator projection works best within 15 degrees either north or south of the equator. Outside of those 15 degrees, those land masses really become distorted. The further the feature is from the equator, the more the shape gets stretched. So, for example, on the globe, Greenland is relatively small, but on Mercator projection, Greenland is massive. All compass directions are straight lines, so that makes for good navigation. Again, top is north and the bottom is south. And because it is a flat map of a curved surface, the straight line on the map is not the shortest distance between 2 points. This again has to do with that distortion. A second type of projection is called conic projection. Conic, you should think of the word cone. So a conic map is projection that uses a cone shape to better represent the region of the poles. This is best where the cone touches the globe. This is along the lines of latitude, usually the equator. So what they do is they would curl a piece of paper so that it would form a cone, and then set it, so here's our cone, and then set it over the globe. Again, the globe would be shining a light out from it, and then they would trace it. And so the best and least distortion is up here near the poles. Our third type of projection is gnomonic, so the G is silent. We don't actually pronounce it. Gnomonic projection is made by projecting onto a flat paper from just one spot on Earth. So this is very specific to a location. The size and shape are good near the point of contact, but terrible everywhere else. And so this one, we're looking at just the poles. The piece of paper is laying right flat on top of the pole, and that's going to be your best and least distorted. Robinson projection is newer, and this brings in math. It could directly translate to coordinates on a map. This produced a map that was an oval, so you'll see down here that it's oval, versus the rectangle. We're now accurate within 45 degrees of the equator, so we're now 3 times more accurate than the Mercator projection. The distance along the equator and parallel to it are true, however, the scales along each line of latitude are slightly different. So the Robinson projection is our most accurate. Maps get divided off into coordinates, kind of like how in math we have our first, second, third, and fourth quadrants. Maps kind of get divided off the same way. They have a coordinate system, which is a line of grids to help you find your location. We call this latitude and longitude. And the numbers that we talk about with latitude and longitude are actually angles between your location and the center of Earth. So latitudes are lines that circle around the Earth. They go horizontally, and they stack up on one another. And so they describe how far north or south you are from an equator. Think of these as like rungs on a ladder. Even though they run horizontally, they measure distance vertically. So the equator is the line of latitude that is in the middle of the planet. It is equal distance from the North and South Pole. Longitude are lines that go around Earth from pole to pole, so they are vertical, and they measure horizontal distance. It tells you how far east and west from the prime meridian you are. So the prime meridian is similar to the equator in that it cuts the Earth in half. However, it cuts it in half vertically. And the prime meridian passes through Greenwich, England. So that would be up here somewhere. A polar coordinate system is a location marked by an angle and a distance from some reference point. The angle is usually the angle between your location and the reference point and a line pointing north. In order to find your location, it requires a map, a compass, and a way to measure distance. Usually, this gets called, I believe, orienteering. And if you're a Boy Scout, I think this is one of the, you can earn some orienteering badge or something like that. So, example, suppose you need to go from your location go from your location of a marker that is 20 degrees east and 500 meters from your current position. So you're going to use a compass to orient your map north, to make sure your map is pointing north. And then you use your compass to find which direction is 20 degrees east. So if we're perfectly north here, east is this way. So from this point where you're standing, you need to go 20 degrees east. So you measure on the compass 20 degrees east, and then you could start walking in this direction because that would be 20 degrees. And you would need to go the 500 meters on this orange line to get to your desired location. From that desired location, you would again orient your map north, and maybe this time you need to go, the direction tells you to go west. So you would measure, I don't know, let's say 20 degrees again. 20 degrees. And you would start walking in that direction. And that's a way to use your polar coordinate system. So lastly, the best way to make a map of the whole Earth is a globe because it represents Earth as a sphere. So the shape and sizes are not distorted. The distances are true to scale, and they will usually have the coordinate system and a scale marked on them. The shortest distance between the 2 points is a straight line since there's no distortion. Making a globe, however, is very difficult to make, and they're just not very convenient to carry around. So that's why we use maps much more frequently. Easier to carry around.